I talk to a spirit. She comes in my dreams.
What is the path to awakening supposed to look like? To feel like? How do you know if you are on it? We ask these very sacred and sometimes vulnerable questions to many different women from all walks of life. A conversation that needs to be shared and heard. I'm Jo Hendy.
I'm Amanda Parker.
And welcome to the Girl Awakening podcast.
Good morning, Amanda. Oh my goodness, I am like down in the very south of Australia, and we have the most amazing guest. Oh, I have literally been so excited about meeting this woman because she is incredible. I don't think we've had an awakening quite like it. We've had many physical, body, spiritual, all of those things included, but this one is like life altering and mind blowing. And I'm just so grateful that we have this beautiful guest on today.
Oh yes, yeah.
So you'll hand it over to you to read her bio. I'm not gonna share her name yet.
Okay, well, I get that honor. Betty Guadagno knows what rock bottom looks like. Oh, now I'm going to get emotional too, but just for that introduction and actually sitting here. Before 2019, her days were a blur of heroin, street hustle, and heartbreak, with the unthinkable pain of losing both parents to suicide. Then a single life-shaking moment changed everything, a near-death-like experience during an overdose that sent her through a cosmic replay of her life, face to face with loved ones on the other side, and straight into a crash course on her soul's pre-game plan. There's just so much power in reading that out, and just an instant interject with who our guest today is. Betty, welcome to Girl Awakening. Thank you for joining us. Such a joy to meet you.
Amanda. Thanks, Jo. You almost made me start crying, but I'm just feeling your feeling. I'm not even feeling my own feeling, but thank you. And thank you for expressing your emotion. It is actually, I'm so immersed in my own story that I forget that it actually is very inspiring. It's just for me, it's just like regular life, but yeah, it is. It's emotion provoking. It really is.
Yeah. And not many people get to tell their story either, literally, as you share so vulnerably the depth of where you've walked. Not many people get to share that, not many people make it out the other side. So
yeah, I was going to say that too. It's not I think a lot of people get poked and prodded and then smashed and then run over basically, but it's in the choice of actually where am I going to go with this, and you made the choice, which is the most inspiring part of this story. So basically we're going to hand it over to you and
ask the question.
Open it up. Yeah. How did your awakening begin, Betty?
Yes. Well, yeah, I just want to add to what you guys were saying that, yeah, not everybody does. Like my parents, they got smushed by the universe and they didn't make it out. And so they don't have a story to share. And so I share because I share for everybody who, has had these experiences of poverty and addiction and sex work and just really low vibrational energy that we would call it in awakening space, right? Like being stuck in lack and grief and guilt and shame and never realizing that you can climb up that scale of consciousness and come into a state of awakening. But my awakening was through an overdose. That's how it started. I never grew up in any kind of spiritual awareness. I didn't know what an awakening was. I had never heard of a spiritual awakening. It was not part of my picture. I grew up as a militant atheist. I come from a whole family of addicts. And when your life is immersed in addiction and poverty, there's no room for God, because either God becomes this really mean, damning dude in the sky who is just burning us like little ants under a magnifying glass, or God's forgotten us. And so in my family, it was just easier not to believe in God because the options were limited on what our conception of God could be, because our lives were so miserable. My parents both committed suicide together. They died from their addiction. They died from their toxic codependency. They died from the pain of poverty.
Mm.
And I thought that it was my job to carry out their legacy.
Wow.
And to me, I thought that our family legacy was using drugs. And so I partied because they couldn't.
Yeah.
And my life with drug addiction stopped being a party a really, really long time before I stopped using. Like there's a progression of the dis-ease of addiction. And they say first it was fun, and then it was fun with problems, and then it was just problems. But for me, I started using when I was a teenager, and it became problems like almost immediately. But I didn't want to give up on my dream. My dream was to figure out how to use drugs and be successful in using drugs and still be able to maintain living a life. But once my parents died, my addiction just went full steam, and it caused me to abandon everything in my life. I abandoned my sister. She was only 18 years old when our parents died. I was 23. And I said that I couldn't deal, and I moved across the country, and I just severed ties with anyone and anything that I had ever known. And I was running from my pain. I was running from my
Mm.
grief, and I fell into the arms of addiction, and it became my guiding star, and it destroyed me. In the end, addiction left me as a homeless meth head prostitute strung out on heroin. That is where addiction took me. And at first it was just partying and having fun, but that's the progression of it. I just took everything away from me, including all of my sanity and dignity.
Mm.
And I ended up overdosing in 2019 on March 23rd, 2019, actually, which is the beginning of the season of Aries, which is the symbol of rebirth. It also falls right there on the spring equinox, again, symbol of rebirth. And I didn't realize, but my life was about to have the most epic rebirth. And I had this near death like experience that I later discovered was a Kundalini awakening. So, as we talk about awakening, this is what I experienced. I experienced a life force energy activation
Mm-hmm.
where my whole system was completely offline for the first 35 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one single instant, everything became online and activated all at once. And so there was this rush of energy going up and down my chakra system, which I didn't know what any of these words were at the time. But I just felt this intense energy going from the base of my spine to the crown of my head. And it was rapid firing up and down, up and down. And it was actually causing me to piss all over myself. So like
Yep.
half of my awakening was spent on the toilet, which is really funny. I'm sure we've all had woke toilet moments, but mine was pretty intense. And then I collapsed, and I started to experience, it felt like I was experiencing a collective life review.
Yeah.
So I was experiencing every experience that's ever happened on earth all at the exact same moment, but it was reflecting back in my own lived experience. And then I was experiencing my own personal life review as well. And, in active addiction, I was a traumatized person who was maliciously, intentionally traumatizing other people. So my life review started with all of these women's faces. And in active addiction, I was a prostitute, but I wouldn't just prostitute myself. I would manipulate other women. I would get them strung out on drugs, and I would prostitute them as well to make money for my own addiction. And so I started to experience the pain from all of those women. The fact that I abused them, that I watched and allowed men to abuse them, that I put them in really dangerous situations, and the fear that they felt, and then the admiration that they felt for me as well. Like they were doing these things to impress me because they thought that I was a person that was worthy of being impressed. They wanted me to like them. And so this is what they were doing. And I could feel all of these super intense feelings, and they didn't feel good. Because I was manipulating these people. I had made them think that I was somebody that I wasn't. And all that they wanted to do was impress me. And that was a huge part of my life review. I started to experience my parents' suicide, but I was actually put into the scene of through their perspective. I watched them make the decision together. I watched them write their suicide notes together. I watched them take fistful after fistful of pills until their body began to die. I watched the whole thing happen, and I felt every emotion that they were feeling. And it just felt like I was trapped inside of hell because everything that I was experiencing was all really terrible. There wasn't any real moments of joy or happiness for me to reflect on in my own life. Although, because I was having this collective life review, I was experiencing joyful things. I was experiencing the joy of childbirth. I was experiencing the joy of love, of connection, of community. No things that I had experienced in my own personal life, but I was feeling them inside of this life review. But that was like very fleeting. Again, my energy was going up and down, and I just kept getting stuck and trapped in this lower energy. And while I kind of gave up. I was like, okay, I must have died. I'm stuck in hell. I'm seeing my parents. They've got to be in hell because they committed suicide. So I see them and I'm dead. So we're all in hell together. And now this is it. And it was way worse than what I thought happens when you die, because what I thought happens when you die is nothing. I thought it's just eternal darkness and nothingness, but I was experiencing something really terrible. And then I started to hear my dad's voice, not as this person in the scene of the suicide, but something different. And it was coming from somewhere else. And I just heard him chanting to me, "You are worthy of all the love in the universe. You are worthy of all the love in the universe." And I didn't believe him, but I trusted his voice. And so I started to follow it. And that's when I landed in the light. And it was such a different experience. I landed in the vibration of joy and reunion. I felt like I was home, like a home that I didn't remember, but I knew was truly mine. Like every cell in my body was radiating with the feeling of safety and security and being home. I wish I had better words for it. It's not home like where all your shit is. It's home like this eternal bliss, like this eternal connection to your creator, to your source. And so my scene of my being home, or like my experience in the light, I was downloaded with this awareness that I was a divine spiritual being, and I was one of the most bravest volunteers that's ever existed, because I volunteered to come to Earth for the Great Awakening. And I could sense myself around thousands of other souls, and everybody was so jazzed and they were so lit up because we were all getting ready to jump to Earth for the Great Awakening. And I didn't know what any of this meant, but I just had deep innate knowing that this was truth and I was a part of it. I still had no idea what it was, but I just knew it. I accepted it. I just massive acceptance, no questioning. This is truth and I accept it. And my awareness shifted over to another scene, and I found myself in front of this table of beings, and the table was like super crappy, just like a plastic folding table that like you get at, like a big discount store. But there was a book on top of this table that was beautiful, super ornate, gold, velvet, jeweled, like so beautiful. And these beings of light, they felt like leaders. They felt like they were in charge. I don't know if they were in charge of all of humanity, but they were definitely in charge of me. And again, I had massive acceptance over this. It wasn't like I was this rebel against authority like I might have been in my actual human life. It was like, oh, these are people that are in charge, and I massively accept that I am not in charge of my life in this moment. And they were thumbing through the book, and it was the book of my life. And they're looking through it, and they're looking at me, and they're looking at the book, and they're saying, okay, it's good to see you, but you're not actually going to stay here. You're only here for information. And I'm like looking all around me. I'm like, you guys aren't talking to me, are you? Because I don't know where I am, but I am definitely staying. This place feels amazing. 10 out of 10. Will not leave. No way. Like, I love it here. And they just continued to affirm, no, this is just for information. And they shoved me into another scene, and it felt
Can
like
I just
I was
ask,
in.
Betty,
Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
were they
Oh,
your
yeah.
guides? Were they your guides?
Yes,
Yep.
they were my guides.
Yes.
They were my team, my beings of light.
Yes.
They don't necessarily feel like my individual guides. Like, I have other guides that I've conceptualized and developed.
Okay.
They felt like so much higher. Like, I wouldn't even ask to bother them because they
Yes.
are like in charge of so much. That's really what it felt like. They
Yeah.
were the CEO of my life. Like they
Yeah.
were very, very high in the planning process. And I can go on a rant. So like, please feel free to interject.
Oh, no, no, no,
Yeah,
no,
I feel
no.
like it's really
I'm on a
powerful
roller
just
coaster
having
right
you
now.
share all this out, and we
Yeah.
can come
Love it.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my awareness goes over to this other scene, and I find myself inside this gigantic spiritual supermarket.
Oh, I love
And
this.
there's a guy leading me, and he has on this like plaid blazer and a fedora, and he's very comical. And he's like, "Let's pick your life." And I have this giant empty grocery cart, and lining the walls of the grocery store aisles were these gigantic cereal boxes, and every cereal box had a life experience on it. And I start grabbing everything because I know that I'm going to Earth for the Great Awakening. I know that Earth isn't actually real. And so I'm like, yeah, let me experience everything all at once. Like I can handle it. I'm this divine spirit. I can do anything. Like nothing is real. It doesn't matter. And I had already picked my family line that I was going to be born into, again, because I was coming to Earth for the Great Awakening. And there were certain life experiences that were going to be demanded to be experienced, not only for my particular ancestral line or my particular soul's work, but for the entire collective, which is what the Great Awakening is all about. It's about
Mm.
transformation of consciousness for the collective consciousness. So I was taking on collective wounds that were going to need to be healed.
And I just
And
want to add, I
yeah,
want to interject there too, because that's exactly what's occurring right now. Even like through everything that you're saying now, the vibration, the frequency of that is going out and transcending to us, to everybody that listens. And it's like, that's what you're talking about.
yes, there is some crazy shit going on in
Yep.
our world, on your
Yeah,
side of the world and my side of the world, and everything in between. There's
absolutely.
crazy, weird stuff happening, but
Mm.
it's just a distraction, is
Yep.
really what it is. Like you're here on an individual soul mission. For me, I have to remind myself not to get distracted. I have this little post-it in front of me all the time. It says, I reduce my ability to be of service to others when I take on the suffering of 8 billion people. I'm
Ooh,
not here to
Oh,
change the world. I'm here to affect the people that are in my direct field.
yes.
I can't change the world. That's not what I'm here to do because
Hmm.
there's nothing actually wrong with the world. The world is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be this massive distraction, this huge game of entertainment, but it
yeah.
doesn't entertain me anymore. And
Yeah.
so, what I was experiencing inside of this spiritual supermarket was the fact that I have designed an individual soul mission for
Yeah.
myself. And my soul mission included crazy shit like prostitution, all this different kind of sexual trauma that was going to be part of my life. Like I picked up this variety pack of cereal boxes, like, oh, I'll just take a little taste of all of them. And so I had massive sexual trauma throughout my life, stuff that I had inflicted on myself, stuff that I had no control over that happened to me when I was a child. And this was really a main marker in my life, was the fact that I had become so detached from my body because of sexual trauma that had been inflicted upon me as a kid, and then how it continued to manifest throughout my life because I never dealt with it and nobody ever taught me to talk about it or how to process it. So it was just stored inside of my body. And so when I picked this cereal box. I saw the moment. I picked a cereal box that said childhood sexual trauma on it. And as I picked it, an orb of light came out with it. And that orb of light was the soul of the man who molested me when I was a kid, a family member, an extended family member. And we came orb to orb with each other. And we came into contract that we were going to play these roles to each other, victim and perpetrator, villain and what, and
Mm.
antagonist and protagonist. We were going to play these roles for each other.
Yeah.
And I don't have a great human conceptualization. I don't have like some grand sentence that I can say to you as to why that would help the evolvement of my soul. But I just have this really deep truth and knowing inside of me that this is something that I chose.
Mm.
And that awareness shifts me from victim mentality into spiritual autonomy. I have control, I have design, I have co creator credit in the story of my life. And I know that I also took this on, not just for myself, but for the whole collective.
Hmm.
Again, like this, I love this storyline of this big, grandiose story that, like, I'm not just healing for me, I'm healing for every little girl and every little boy who didn't get a chance to heal from their own sexual trauma. and it
Absolutely.
helps this whole creative collective healing thing take place. So I'm also showing a bunch of other stuff inside this supermarket. I'm picking all these boxes like author, teacher, spiritual awakening, recovery, addiction, poverty, homelessness. Some of the things make sense because I know that I've already experienced them, and some of them make no sense. I'm like, a teacher, me, ha, hilarious, never. And then I find myself back in front of the table of beings, and I was so happy to have this information because again, it cracked me out of victim mentality, which is a personality and a mask that I had been wearing my whole life. It was way overdue for removal. And this scene took it all away from me. And I was like, wow, I'm a divine co creator of my experience. I'm in co creation with the spiritual world. I'm not a victim to my circumstance. That is so cool. And I'm telling the beings of light, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I'm still not going to go back to Earth because that place is in fucking flames right now. And it's terrible. But I am so happy that I have this information. This Great Awakening show, it's going to be lit. I already know the ending is going to be so cool, but I'm just going to watch it from up here on whatever streaming service you guys have. Is it like Earth TV or something? Can I borrow your password? I was not coming back, like no matter what. This was not part, I did not want to come back. But they told me that I was coming back no matter what. I had no choice. And it wasn't because I was being punished. It wasn't like you're in trouble, we're sending you back to Earth. It was what they told me was that I had been training for lifetimes for this particular lifetime. And this was it. This was the end
Yeah.
timeline. And they weren't going to let me miss my chance to be part of the transformation of consciousness. We don't
Yeah.
get chances like this in every lifetime. This was going to be a really special one.
Mm.
And I said, like, I can't go back into the body I just came from. She's broken. She's glitched. She's sprawled out on her bathroom floor naked, covered in piss. Like, you're not going to shove my infinite divinity back into that fire. Like, that's not happening. And they said, well, if you don't go back into her, then you're going back into a baby and you're going to have to start all over.
Oh,
Oh,
And those options just seemed very bleak. And
wow.
so, just through like going through the probabilities of will I survive this if I have to start from zero, or like
Mm.
could I just pick up and start over from where I'm at inside of this body that I'm currently in. And I just was like, there's no way that I can start from a baby. Like, no, I'll go back into the body that I came from. And they told me so lovingly as my awareness started to sift back into my body once I made the decision to come back into this form. They said, listen, the first part of your life was boot camp, and the second part of your life is going to be carrying out your mission. Nobody likes
Mm.
boot camp. It's terrible. You're doing like
Yeah.
1,000 push-ups in the mud. There's a bald guy screaming in your face. It's raining sideways. It's cold. You're homesick. Your bed sucks. Nobody likes it. But
Mm.
the second part of your life, you're going to have a team with you.
Mm.
You're going to have soulmates, kindred spirits, teachers, mentors, communities. You're going to be living in spiritual awareness. You'll have access to us. Your life is going to be so much better. You have no
Mm.
idea. Just trust us. And I was like, I do not trust you guys. You have
Mm.
given me zero reason to trust you, whatever. And I
Yeah.
just found my awareness back in my body after
Yeah.
that, again, on my bathroom floor, naked.
Yep.
And I sat up and I shook my head and I shook my tits and I was like, whoa, that was crazy. I will never be that fucking high ever again. I
Yeah.
was
Wow.
so high that I thought I was talking to God. I
Yeah.
thought I was so high that I thought I planned my life. What a joke.
yeah.
And I just went back to living my life the way that I had always been living it, just immersed in poverty, prostituting myself, drug addiction, the whole thing. I just didn't believe that it was a real experience.
Did it
Yeah.
even feel worse though then, Betty? Because like having that, because what I was feeling when you're sharing, like just even that feeling of bliss and safety and like how surreal that must have, like literally surreal, but so different to feel that those senses of safety and bliss and just connection with those beings to then come back into your body and go, wow, that was a freaky movie. And back into life as it was. Did it feel kind of worse, or could it have felt any worse, or was it just the same?
Oh, it was totally the same because it was like waking up from a dream. And you know
Mm,
when you have like a really blissed out dream and you're like, "Oh my God, that was so nice," but oh, it's
yeah,
already gone. Like
yeah.
the moment is so fleeting. And that's what it felt like. It just felt like, wow, that was a cool feeling. Maybe I'll be able to tap back into that feeling again if I think about it really hard. But I just thought that it was fake. I thought that it was drug-induced psychosis. I was like, wow, how can I find the right combination of drugs again to make that happen again? That was really cool.
How's that thought that came in straight away? The other thing I just wanted to say too is that I love how your personality, even through the awakening part, was still there. Like that fun, funny, quirky Betty was all through the whole thing. That thread of you stayed there.
For the
Were you?
experience.
Yeah. Were you like that when you were in full addiction mode too? Were you still the fun, quirky, or were you? Yeah. Yeah.
Was because I'm such a traumatized person, right? So like what do most traumatized people do? They like use humor to
Yeah.
deflect the fact that they're hurting so deeply.
Mm.
So I was also like 300 pounds, so like fat girls are always really funny.
Wow.
And
Wow.
but those were like protection mechanisms that I was funny like that. But I also think that it's really telling because my whole personality didn't dissolve. And I think that the reason that it didn't is because I knew that I was coming back to Earth.
Yeah.
And so it's my personality stayed with me because my ego wasn't going to totally dissolve. My ego is my personality. And so it came with me because it knew that I was going to come back and like eventually have to share the story. And some people, when they have near death experiences, their whole identity does dissolve and they just
Yeah.
go into straight awareness and their nothingness
Yes.
or everything, depending on how you look at it. But no, my personality came with me. And I think that it did because the way that I tell my story is meant to impact a certain kind of person.
Yeah.
Where, like, some people just have this super love and light experience and they see Jesus or they're with God or and that experience is to help another sect of people, but like
Yes.
each one of us as experiencers and teachers and storytellers, we're meant to impact a certain person. Maybe it's just one person, but like my story will hit one person's ears the way that it's supposed to and it will help them.
And
Well, it definitely hit my ears because I remember listening to you on Next Level Soul, which I was right into Next Level Soul at that stage. Then I saw you on it, and literally, I was, who is this person? Who is this lady? Like, how can she be so light and funny and hilarious and all of the things and
yeah,
be so awake? Because I think there's this narrative too that where when you start to awake, you have to talk softer and you have to be more loving. And, that's just bullshit. We know that's bullshit now. You can bring your personality with you and still be this incredible, evolving, awake being that's completely changing people's thoughts and beliefs around this.
Will say that I did do that when I first came back. Like my spiritual ego, whew, way worse than my actual ego. Oh, it was terrible. It was so bad. But the way that my story unfolded, like I did try to do that. I did try to be like, oh, I'm love and light. I'm super spiritual. Like I wanted to tear my skin off because it's
Mhm.
covered in tattoos from my past life. And I was like, I'll never
yeah,
be a spiritual teacher because I don't look like one. I don't sound like
Mm,
one. How can I make this happen? And, I fell into that trap of what happens when you have an awakening. Like you have an awakening and maybe your ego, like your personality ego does start to dissolve, but guess what? There's something waiting to jump
yeah.
into that void, and that's spiritual ego. So like
Mm,
I thought that I was Jesus. I literally thought that I was the second coming of Christ. And so I went around trying to lay my hands on homeless drug addicts and change the world, even though I didn't know shit. I didn't know anything about Jesus, but I was like, I think that I'm him. And I was just so confused and I was so ungrounded and I had no information. And, it took me years to realize that I'm okay just being myself.
mm,
I'm not trying to transcend the human experience
yeah.
because if I didn't want to be human, I would have just stayed in heaven. I
Yeah.
came here to experience all of the duality of what it means to be human, the
Mm,
shadow and the light. And so I allow myself to be that way. I allow myself to have my flaws to have my certain personality traits that maybe some are considered good and some are considered bad, but like they're all me. And
Yeah.
some days are better than others with them. Like some days I'm really controlling. Some days I'm hypercritical of myself. Some days I feel super enlightened and connected to source and all that is. But like that's what duality is. It's like
Yeah.
really cool to go up and down the scale of consciousness while we're here inside of a human body.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Esther Hicks talks about this a lot around, when they ask her, why do you love the earthly experience so much? And she says it's the contrast, because we don't
Yes.
have that on the other side. And there's no other planet that we are aware of that actually has the contrast.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you're
God.
obviously like a really driven, like really motivated person as well, Betty. Like, that's so like because I was sort of laughing a little bit before, like thinking like when you came back and having these superpowers, did that kind of make you extra good at what you were doing there for a little while with how you're choosing to live your life, because you had like
Well,
that sort of
no,
like,
I think it probably
invincibility.
made it a little, well, I was never scared. I
Yeah,
was never scared before my experience, and I've definitely never been scared after my experience.
yeah,
But I think that that has a lot to do with my upbringing because I didn't have parents
Mm,
for most of my life.
yeah,
While other people felt like this fear of being judged by their parents. I mean, even when
mm,
I did have parents, my parents were strung out on drugs. So, like, they weren't holding me to any sort of like caliber of how to be a human. It
mm,
wasn't like, oh, you better get good grades. It was like, oh, you better find $20 so that the lights don't get turned off. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, I never had this fear of judgment because my parents, like my first people that would be my judgers, they were so emotionally and physically checked out of their own earth experience and definitely out of the parenting experience. So I feel like a lot of people, they grow up in this fear of judgment and like just fear of life, really. But
yeah,
because I didn't have that as like one of my pillars in my life, I never felt fearful of anything. And it's weird because in recovery now, I live my life by this just for today model.
mm,
Like I'm staying present, I'm staying in the moment. The present moment is where heaven is. But also in active addiction, I was living just for today, thinking like, oh, I could die at any moment. And like I just have acceptance around the fact that every decision that I make is bringing me one step closer to death. And my whole life was kind of this soft suicide. So I think that it made me, after my experience, nothing really changed until doors and pathways started to open to make me see that I was going to have to change my life. And I was really super resistant to change. I didn't know what it was going to look like. That's when I was fearful because
yeah,
I didn't know
Mm,
who I was without addiction because my whole personality was drugs. That was who I was. Like I'm covered in tattoos of like liquor bottles and packs of
wow.
cigarettes. This was my whole identity. My addiction branded me. Literally,
yeah.
Yeah.
half of my arm is just like liquor bottles.
It's just,
Like
it's a
what?
story. It's
Why?
a story of that time, isn't it? It's a story of that every
Yes,
moment of that time, isn't it? Yeah.
But
it
also,
really is.
yeah, you were saying about how doors started opening, but also in that negative context of your life, doors that were closing too, weren't they? Because you kept trying to open doors that were just like, nah,
Yeah.
Yes,
you're not
like
coming
brick
here.
walls behind doors. Like all of my drug dealers simultaneously decided to change their lives
Yeah.
and stop selling drugs. That was like a huge one. I mean, like my main drug dealer, I had been in like, this partnership with him for 10 years. A whole
Wow.
decade of my life, I called this dude every single day. He was like the
Yeah.
only constant person in my life.
Yeah.
And then this one day I called him and he was like, don't ever call me again. I'm out of the game. I found Jesus. I want to be a good dad. And don't ever think about calling me. And he blocked me. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't deserve this. Like, this man is literally my lifeline. I
Wow.
need him.
Hmm.
But I had other dealers. So
Mm.
I was like, okay, that's weird. And I just like kind of went down the list. And the next guy that I called said the exact same words to me. But these guys didn't know each other. So I'm just thinking like, okay, Jesus is making the rounds and changing men's hearts. Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand how or
You start
why.
pinching yourself like he's seeped out of me somehow. Like,
was crazy. Well, like I didn't think I was Jesus at this point.
Yeah.
That came a little bit after, but then afterwards I was like, oh, maybe I am Jesus. Maybe I changed all those men's hearts.
Oh,
Um,
this is what I
but
love too. The non, what do they call them? The non-player. I call them something
characters,
like,
yes,
yes,
NPCs, yes.
yes, which are playing the game just for you. Even your parents, doing the way that they brought you up and everything was prepping you for the next phase kind of thing.
Yes, everything has meaning. And that's
Yep.
something that I can see in hindsight, but it's very hard to see it in the
Mm-hmm.
moment. When you're
Yeah.
in the midst of a storm, it's very hard to grab onto that perspective of this is happening for my highest good. This is all happening for the story. It's very, very challenging, but it's a
Yeah.
muscle too. So
Yeah.
now when things that are uncomfortable happen to me, I only stay in like my misery or my self-pity for less than 5 minutes, and I say I know that this is happening for the highest good for all. I know that
Mm.
it is. Like I can't see it. It's way above my pay grade and I don't have access to the higher plan, but I know. I have trust that it is happening for some bigger divine reason.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's Amanda and our motto. Basically, everything's happening for us, by us, through us. It's all, everything is divinely in order.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
Mm.
how long did it take you to accept that, like, that this pathway wasn't an option for you? I don't know how long, but like obviously when your community started saying, don't call me, like that's like isolation, isn't it? From
I
everything.
love thinking of them as community. That's
Yeah.
very, very fun. It's
That's
very nice.
Amanda. Amanda,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
all very loving. It's all
Yes,
community.
it is. That is such an awakened place to be, right? Like, oh, that was your community. It's true. I guess they kind of were. It took me a little over 2 months after the near death like experience to realize that it was a true experience. And that's when my recovery journey started through more amazing divine science and synchronicities. Like I found myself on this train. There was nobody else in the whole train car, and I live in New York City, so that's weird because there's 9 million people that live
Mm,
here. How is there nobody in this train car in the middle of the day? Very,
mm,
very unique.
Mm.
But I was just sitting in this train car feeling very lost and confused and broken. And the doors open and a man stepped inside and he sat directly across from me, even though the whole train car was empty. And around his neck was this big blinged out emblem for a 12-step fellowship, a recovery fellowship.
yeah.
And I heard a voice in my head and it said, that's your path, follow him to a meeting. And so I asked this strange man on the train if he happened to be going to a meeting. And guess what? He was on
Oh,
his way to one and he took me with him. And I didn't really know what was going on, but I knew that I had to start following this voice in my head. But the thing was is that the voices in my head, because there were multiple voices, like one was really familiar and loud, so loud. And that was the voice of my addiction. It was the voice of my ego. It was the voice of my shadow. And so I kept wanting to just go into that familiar discomfort of following that voice. But then there was the second voice was this very soft and gentle, very unfamiliar voice, but it seemed more like truth. And so I had to just start listening to this voice. I didn't know who it was or what it was, but I just felt like I had to trust it. And so I just started doing that. But it took me a long time to practice discernment. Like
yeah.
at first I thought that everything was a divine message. And so like a scammer on the telephone would call me and be like, all you have to do is send us $200 and we'll send you 2,000. And I'm like, oh my God, God wants me to be abundant. This is fucking incredible. Great. And I'm like sending my credit cards had no money on them. I had like negative $500 in my bank account, but I'm like, God wants this for me. God wants this for me. And it took me a long time just hitting my head against the wall to
Mm,
realize that not everything is for me. Not everything is for my highest good. I have to practice discernment. And the only way that I can practice discernment is by making mistakes. It's the only way that I'm going to learn.
mm. Wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow. I freaking love that. There's so much gold in exactly what you just said. It's
Yeah.
being able to distinguish which voice am I going to listen to? The voice of comfort, which usually leads to nowhere. We're learning that now, it's almost like the default. Because part of the awakening process is going through the challenge. And it's not easy. It's not all freaking unicorns and rainbows. It's like And
when you,
most of the time it is challenging. Sorry, lovely, go.
I was just going to say, when you're ready to hear the voice or ready for a change, you just want it to feel better.
Yes,
Like you
exactly.
don't want to always have to keep experiencing more challenges. Like it's like I'm done with the challenges. Like give me something good now.
Yeah. And I think the thing is about changing the narrative around what a challenge is.
Mm,
So I used to look at challenges as roadblocks. And so every time something would happen, I'm like, why are you doing this to me, God? Right. And victimizing myself, which the shadow loves that. Like the shadow
yeah.
thrives in victim mentality. So
Mm,
now I have to look at challenges as something else. I'm like, oh, this is making me stronger so that I can take a step forward in the direction that my life is truly meant to be in. And I'm
mm,
not pretending like, okay, I had this awakening and then I went into recovery and my life has been butterflies and rainbows ever since.
yeah.
That's not how it's been at all. Like I
Mm,
said, I had massive problems with using discernment. I had no idea what was for my highest good, what was not. I became inflated in spiritual ego, thinking that I was above everyone, that people were asleep and I was awake, and like
mm,
just this superiority, spiritual
mm,
superiority was happening,
Yeah.
thinking that I had access to healing, but nobody else did. And then as my drug addiction started to heal and I let go of drugs, I had all these other addictions pop up in my life.
Mm,
Like, what we're talking about. We just want to
so
sedate, we
many.
want to feel comfort, right? So I used food, I used eating disorders, I used sugar, I used other people, I used codependency, I fell
mm.
into limerence, which is like when you get obsessed with a person.
Wow.
It's literally the worst addiction that there is. Like you live in
Yeah.
a fantasy inside your mind with like a person that doesn't even know that you exist.
Yeah.
And so like I fell into this whole like twin flame trap where I was like, this person, he's my twin flame, and like we're supposed to be together. But
Yeah.
really it was psychosis.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
was crazy. It was
Yeah.
totally nuts.
But that's
But
going
like
through all
I
the
fell
layers.
into all of those
Yeah.
markers of what
Yeah.
happens when you awaken.
Yeah, going through all those layers of like what's underlying, like literally peeling back the onion, as they say, like to
Yes.
uncover it all. Like there's this thick layer of cream, but then there's all these other layers there that are just part of really going all the way through to get to, that deeper
Mm.
connection with who you truly are and that purpose and that person who was choosing the cereal boxes or that soul, that being.
Now I know it's gone so fast already, and we've
Yeah.
got around 10 minutes left. But I wanted to the awakening journey is just like
Yeah.
in itself fucking amazing and incredible. And I resonated with it when I heard it a little while ago, and I've just been following you ever since because I love you. But I wanted to talk about this thing where I heard recently about you talking about, cracking the code.
Yeah.
And I remember going for my walk with Amanda in the morning and saying, oh my God, she talked about this morning about, the simulation, which I've heard of many times. And I've always kind of went, yeah, yeah, yeah. But when you said it, something hit me in the way that you said it around, once you've cracked the code of life, it becomes fun. And so I just want to, if we can talk around that, and is that where you are now? And where do these codes, I know there's a lot of questions, where do these codes come from? How do they drop in for you? And if we can give our listeners a little insight into this journey and how much fun it can be.
Mm.
Okay, let's talk about it. So, how do you hack the matrix? How do you make your earth life a good one, a successful one? So, I've always thought of us all, ever since my awakening, as it's like we're all prisoners of war, or we think that we are,
Yeah,
right? And so the thing about this prison camp that we're all trapped inside of is that the gates to our prison cells are open. But
yeah.
we choose to stay inside the cell because again, we're comfortable in our discomfort. It's
Mm.
so familiar that we just think that it's regular. And the thing about the prison gate, like see myself inside this cell, and every time that I go to walk out, my hand hits the like a bar, one of
Mm.
the cell bars. And those bars are made up of all the limiting beliefs in my life that keep me trapped and keep me small. And so, what are my limiting beliefs? So, like, my particular limiting beliefs are I'm not worthy enough, even though God straight up told me that I'm worthy of all the love in the universe. But, like, I
Yeah.
don't even know what that means. So, I'm just going to ignore that, even though it's literally a direct download from source. I think that I'm not smart enough. I think that I'm not pretty enough. I think that I'm not good enough and nobody likes me and whatever. Like my pants aren't the right size. The scale doesn't say the right thing. Like I don't have enough subscribers. I don't have enough, whatever. These are all my limiting beliefs, right?
Mm.
So I stay trapped inside of that prison camp. And all I have to do is actually just rewire the limiting beliefs. So this is my process for rewiring the limiting beliefs. So you figure out where number one, you got to name the belief, right? So like, I'm not worthy enough. Well, where does that belief come from? Well, when I was 5 years old, my parents told me that I was a piece of shit because like I asked for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich instead of a tuna fish sandwich. Like that's an actual story. But so I started to have this deeply ingrained belief that like I'm not worthy of what it is that I desire in life. Like I just have to succumb to whatever anybody is willing to give me. And like I'm not allowed to dream. So that's where it comes from. It's not my belief, it's my parents' belief. Okay, so now I can say, like, oh, okay, well, why am I believing my parents' belief? They were deeply confused people who were super traumatized too. So, like, maybe I don't have to carry their belief with me anymore. So, now what's some evidence on how I know that that belief is not true? Well, I have a huge piece of evidence that, like, literally God told me that I was worthy of all the love in the universe. So, I can call in that receipt. So
Yeah.
this is how I rewire the limiting belief. I have to like go through this whole fucking clunky process. Okay, I hear you, inner critic. You're telling me that I'm a piece of shit, but like who? Who is actually saying that? Is that
Mm.
me? Is that my spirit? Is my
Mm.
spirit saying that? Like, no way. There's no way that my spirit's saying that. So that's one of the hacks is like rewiring the limiting beliefs. The other things that I do to hack the game, they're going to sound so silly, but
Uh-uh.
it really is taking care of this three-legged stool. So the stool that my experience sits upon has one leg of body, one leg of mind, and one leg of spirit. Now, I believe that my body is where my mind and spirit temporarily live. So
Mm.
I picture my spirit like shoved inside this body, which, and some people say that our spirit's on the outside of our body, but like whatever imagery works for you.
Mm-hmm.
But my body is the connection to the spirit right now while I'm in a human form, right? And my mind, it's very important that my mind stay clean. Again, rewiring those limiting beliefs. So I believe that the body is the key to everything. So I got to take care of my body. This is like it's such a simple hack, but like no spiritual person wants to hear it because they're like, no, it's got to be like my crown chakra is open and my third eye is blasted open. And like that's how I hack the game, but it's really not. It's actually like I drink water, I eat clean, I'm a gluten-free, sugar-free vegan. I
Yeah.
only drink water. I exercise my body. I
Yeah.
used to eat pills out of other people's puke. That's like
Yeah.
literally part of my addiction story. Like shit changes, transformation is possible, but it takes consistency and discipline. So
Yeah.
when my awakening happened, I awakened the divine feminine spirit inside of me, and that is this
Mm.
my spiritual essence, right? But I also have to balance my divine masculine energy, and
Mm.
that's the action. The feminine has the idea, and the masculine carries the idea into fruition. So
Mm.
my life is all about consistency, structure, discipline, action. That's my divine masculine in play.
Yeah.
So that is how I hack the game. That's how I manifest my reality. My feminine has the idea, I want to be a wealthy person. My masculine says, okay, girl, let's do it. And then
Yeah.
carries it out and figures out these ways to carry that out. So I have to be in balance. And then, sorry, I'm like on a roll right now, but I
Mm.
just want to share this
No, bring it.
aspect of like,
It's
I'm a shadow
awesome.
work coach, right? So like I take people through integrating the shadow. When you're in a state of awakening, you just want to be in light and love, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does. And I think that that's actually the trap. That's
Yeah.
the anti hack to the
Mm.
game is bypassing and saying, I'm only light and love and I'm nothing else. Like, no, girl, you're human and
Yeah.
human means dual. Okay. You're experiencing both. So when you picture a yin yang symbol, the one large colored side is the feminine light, and the small dot is the masculine shadow. And on the opposite side is the masculine light, and the small dot is the feminine shadow.
Mm.
And this is how we create balance and wholeness on the earth experience. Yes, in heaven, in true form, in spirit, we're nothing but the masculine and feminine light. But here on earth, we have shadow and light. So it's
Mm.
about keeping those shadows in those small little dots and having the light be the main part of the experience, like in the driver's seat. But for a lot of us, at some point, the shadow will become inverted and it
Yeah.
will become the main color component of that yin yang. And so the way that you counteract whatever part of the shadow is you develop more of the opposite light. So the feminine shadow is like victim, codependent, insecure, inauthentic, overly emotional, people pleasing. So if those are things
Mm,
that you're dealing with right now, you have to develop more of your masculine light. And if you
mm,
are a person who has tons of action and organization and courage in your life, which are all masculine light attributes, then that means that it's time for you to dissect the feminine shadow and start to love it. So I have to
mm.
love the victim part of me. I have to love the insecure part of me. It's like, ugh. It's
Yeah.
painful, it's cringe, but it's really, really worth it. So yeah, like the major hacks to the game are like, don't watch the news, eat clean, drink water, move your body, rewire your limiting beliefs, and find balance between the shadow and the light.
I love
It's
that.
very
So
powerful.
amazing.
So empathetically, like the embodiment of what you're saying is just resonating out, and it's just like such a clear, simple truth, but it's not clear and simple to, you got to
Yeah.
step in, you got to step in, you got to step in. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
love overcomplicating shit. It's like the straight up human condition. Like I will complicate the fuck out of anything, any simple little thing.
And isn't that funny? Because that's, I think, why I resonated with you, because I felt you were very simplistic. I felt you like just said it as it is. And it's funny what other people see and what you feel about yourself, because I'm like, I like to keep things simple and like no fucking around, blah, 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 blah. And I felt that in you as well. And I think that's why I
Yeah, I am that
resonated
way
with.
now. No, I am
Yeah.
that way now. But like last me, oh my God, like I get a hangnail, I need to kill myself. What? My nail broke? Like I will overcomplicate anything. Now life is much more simple, but like again, not striving for perfection. Like I'm
Yeah.
not trying the most, I mean, I can still complicate stuff too.
Because I love how
Mm,
you bring the body in, Betty, because like I feel like you're a very smart person. Like your mind is very like active, isn't it? Like, and it's a really comfortable place in a way, I imagine. Like, so your body is like number one. I love that because I think people definitely do overlook how important the body is, especially when the world is, overpolluted, overpopulated, apparently, all these things, there's can be a lot of not accountability for our personal space, like our own inner space, our body, our physical being. So anchoring the mind and the spirit in there and starting
mm.
from that. Yeah.
Yes, like so many people talk about being anxious, and it's like, well, how many cups of coffee have you had? Like, how much caffeine have you consumed? Of course, you're anxious. Like, how much sugar did you eat today? Of course, you're like, how much processed food did you eat today? Like, all of those, everything that we put into ourselves, whether it's content, information, or food, all carries its own vibration with it. So if I'm
Mm,
eating a bunch of garbage, yeah, I'm gonna feel like shit. I'm gonna
yeah.
feel like shit because I'm telling my body that I don't care about it by
Mm,
feeding it shit. And I
mm,
don't think that it's one size fits all. I'm not going to pretend like it is. This is what works for me. But I
mm.
have friends that are psychic mediums and they're highly intuitive and connected and they eat McDonald's all the time.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't make logical sense to me, but like I know that it's true for them. So this is only what works for me. It's not what's going to work for everybody, but like for me these are what my codes are, what my hacks are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How
Okay.
do you
So,
how do you
yeah.
see the world, Betty? Like how do you
Yeah.
see the world and what
Yeah.
do you see next for us? Because like you said, like your purpose here and your what the people that you're touching with, the work that you're doing, boom,
I,
what we're doing here
yes,
with Girl Awakening and yeah.
I see the world as like this really cool, amazing experience.
Mm,
Mm,
Because, like I said, I'm not focusing on the suffering of 8 billion people. I'm not watching the news. I'm not
mm,
infecting my mind with any fear based programming. I'm living in a state of connection,
mm,
community, renewal, and awakening. And
mm.
so, in order for me to do that, I have to just stay focused on my little individual dream. I can't change the world. I can only affect, like, maybe like right outside my door and myself, and that might be it.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not here to preach or teach or proselytize or change anything. I'm just here to be the light. And I identify as like a second wave volunteer. If you've ever been
Yep.
exposed to
Dolores
Dolores
Cannon.
Cannon's information, and second wave volunteers are here to do nothing. Like we're just here to be. And so if you're in my age bracket, like if you're in between 40 and 55 years old, you might be a second wave volunteer as well. And like you don't need to do much. Just take care of yourself. Like the first wave volunteers, they paved the way. The third wave volunteers are gonna alley-oop all of this shit that's already in place. But like just vibration, like we're casting a grid, we're casting a net, and our vibration really does matter. So just when you go to sleep at night and you're in a sleeping dream, you don't know who the president is, you don't know what's going on in the world, you don't know where there's war, you just know what's going on in your dream. And it's not supposed to be any different in the waking dream. We're inside of a waking dream right now. Focus on your individual dream. Make as much impact in your dream as you can, whatever that means. Maybe your purpose is to impact major change and change laws and change society. But for a lot of people, I'm pretty sure that's not what it is. And you're just trying to victimize yourself by like saying how fucked up the world is. Like just try small, try inside your community, make a difference there. But yeah, I think of the world as a beautiful, beautiful game because it is. It's a really cool, beautiful game if you focus on yourself and not on the outer dream.
Oh my God, that's such a beautiful way to close things out. And
Thank you for
wow,
giving us permission.
yeah,
We can give
I'm
ourselves permission, but thank you for
Yes.
emphasizing that. Yeah.
yeah,
You're welcome.
totally resonate with that. It's
Mm.
all about holding the space, isn't it? Thank you, Betty, so much. I know we know that our listeners are going to absolutely love you, and for coming down under for a moment,
Yeah.
and spreading your love is it's just amazing. We love what you're doing, and just keep smashing it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so
We'll
much.
share all about you in the show notes for people to find you. But is there anything that you've got happening at the moment that you'd like to, or in the next couple of months that you'd like to share about?
It would, yes. So my website is buddhabetty.com. It's a play on words. I'm not really a Buddha.
I love it.
But I'm hosting a retreat in Tulum, Mexico during the spring equinox of 2026. So if anybody wants to come like heal in luxury and beautiful scenery, please check it out on my website. And then I have free sharing communities. We meet multiple times a week. We have a Sunday afternoon group, a Tuesday evening group. We have a Wednesday Course in Miracles group. And then different community members host workshops throughout the week as well. It's called The Wheel, wearethewheel.com. And so if you want to get connected to free community, come and check it out. Like your tribe is waiting for you. It might be inside of the meetings that are on the wheel, or it could be somewhere else. But just to keep exposing yourself to as many spaces as you can until you find your people. They're waiting for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Oh,
That's really
that's
very
wonderful.
powerful. Yeah. Thank you, Betty. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time on, love you so much.
Mwah.
Thank you.
She comes in my dreams.
Thank you for listening to our Girl Awakening podcast. We are also on YouTube as Girl Awakening. We'd love to see you there with comments on how our guests resonated with you or your own awakening. Please share the love with a like and subscribe while you're there. A blissful thank you to Ksenia Luki, the amazing artist behind our theme song. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.